And another very lovely evening out there to all of you, my dearest of friends. We left off in Isaiah chapter 50 with the prophecies of the Lord's suffering during his trial. He gave his back to the smiters. They plucked his beard, spit in his face. Absolutely horrific. But let's get right into Isaiah 51. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For the Lord shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation. For a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth, and mine arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and on mine arm shall they trust. Lift up your eyes unto heaven, and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be ye afraid of their revilings. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. But my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days and the generations of old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Rahab pointing towards Egypt. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Art thou not it which hath dried the sea, the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? Here, as in Psalm 87 and 89, Rahab would seem to be a symbolical expression for Egypt. Rahab is literally pride, or the proud one. The event alluded to, both here and in Psalm 89, is the destruction of Pharaoh's host in the Red Sea. Notice also how there's mention of a dragon. Thou hast slayed the dragon and wounded the dragon. The dragon is another symbol of the Egyptian power, if you compare it in Ezekiel 29:3. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, originally designating God's great enemy, Satan, is a term which comes to be applied to the adversaries of the Almighty in general. Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return, and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head. They shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. I, even I, am he that comforteth you. Who art thou, that thou shouldest be afraid of a man that shall die, and of the Son of Man which shall be made as grass? This is very strong language, but it's so very true. What can evil men that aren't part of the body of Christ, what hope do they have ultimately? They can literally do the most evil that they've ever done every second of their lives, but they'll die, and they will end. And they'll not even be a memory in eternity. It's as if they never even existed. There is no hope outside of God. But these are like grass. They come up and go away. And forgettest the Lord thy Maker, that hath stretched forth the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth, and has feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor? Now, in the immediate context, Isaiah, of course, he's speaking to the Jews, but he's pointing towards their fear of Babylon and whenever Nebuchadnezzar would come over. But in the wider sense, the broader sense, he is referring to Satan. The captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. But I am the Lord thy God, that divided the sea, whose waves roared. The Lord of hosts is his name. I bet it was very, very loud. And I have put my words in thy mouth, and I have covered thee in the shadow of mine hand. that I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and say unto Zion, Thou art my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which hast drunk at the hand of the Lord the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling, and wrung them out. Now remember how we went over in the previous study about the servant of the Lord? Well, keep the servant of the Lord in context, because whenever it says, and I have put my words in thy mouth, it's very obviously speaking of this servant of the Lord. The person addressed must be the servant of the Lord. It is, however, quite possible to regard Israel as still addressed, since Israel too was the recipient of God's words. We know that if you're reading Isaiah 59:21, he says, I'll give unto you, and was protected by God's hand from destruction and kept in existence until the happy time should come when God would create a new heaven and a new earth. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she hath brought forth, neither is there any that taketh her by the hand of all the sons that she hath brought up, speaking of Israel. These two things are coming to thee. Who shall be sorry for thee? Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. By whom shall I comfort thee? Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets as a wild bull in a net. They are full of the fury of the Lord, the rebuke of thy God. Therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. The bold image of the cup of God's wrath, often employed by the sacred writers, is nowhere handled with greater force and sublimity than in this passage. Jerusalem is represented in person as staggering under the effects of it, destitute of that assistance which she might expect from her children, not one of them being able to support or lead her. They, abject and amazed, lie at the head of every street, overwhelmed with the greatness of their distress, like the oryx entangled in a net, in vain struggling to rend it and extricate himself. This is poetry of the first order, sublimity of the highest proof. But this distress wasn't to linger on them. Thus saith thy Lord, the Lord, and thy God, that pleadeth the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, Bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground, and as the street to them that went over. Chapter 52. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Here the prophet's imagination takes a higher flight. The cup of indignation having finally passed from her hands, Jerusalem is summoned to shake off her stupor and array herself in garments befitting her dignity as the bride of the Lord. The description is influenced by the contrast, evidently intentional, to the taunt song of the daughter of Babylon. Remember how we went over the daughters of Babylon and how they are to lie down in the dust and bow down themselves and to be taken as slaves? Well, now Zion is told, you get up and now you array yourself. For thus saith the Lord, you have sold yourselves for naught, for nothing, and ye shall be redeemed without money. For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now, in my opinion, this is a really big deal. Ye have sold yourselves for nothing, and ye shall be redeemed without money. The prophet speaks of the captives, in the immediate sense, the Babylonian captives. They had sold themselves for naught. What had they gained by their departure from God? Bondage. What had they won in exchange for their apparent freedom? Only the hard service of Babylon. So they sold themselves for nothing. It was because of them that they went into captivity, their idolatry and turning from God. This was to be a remarkable proof of the power of God. Now, this is quite often overlooked about the miracle that happened in bringing the Jews back to their own land. This was to be remarkable proof of the power of God. Men do not usually give up captives and slaves in whatever way they may have taken them without demanding a price or ransom. But here God says that he designs to effect their deliverance without any such price being demanded or paid, and that as they had gone into captivity unpurchased, so they should return unpurchased. That's a miracle, that no money had to be given for their release. I mean, you could probably count on one hand how many world leaders, once that they take a nation, they automatically just release the servants and the slaves of that nation. That's free labor, and that's to build their kingdom. And it's just absolutely incredible. Cyrus just let them go. That's amazing. Not only let them go, but he gave them funds to help rebuild their old place, Israel and Jerusalem. The Babylonians, perhaps in no way, could have been induced to surrender them. God, therefore, designed to raise up Cyrus, a mild, just, and equitable prince, and to dispose him to suffer the exiles to depart, to allow them to depart, and to aid them in their return to their own land. Just incredible. In this way, they were rescued without money and without price by the interposition of another. Now therefore, verse 5, now therefore, what have I here, saith the Lord, that my people is taken away for naught? They that rule over them make them to howl, saith the Lord, and my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that doth speak. Behold, it is I. Now what does the Lord mean that his name is blasphemed daily? He's meaning by the heathen, because of what has happened to his people. The meaning is that the calamities of Israel were attributed by the heathen to the impotence of their God. See, they mock their God, and this is often with a nation. Well, your God, atheists have done this to me in modern day. I'd walk around them and they didn't like me, and they knew me fairly well, and then I'd spill something on me and they'd say, well, why didn't your God help you or something? Then they blaspheme God because something happened to me. And I say, we're in a fallen world, I mean, things like this happen. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace, that bringeth good tidings of good, that publisheth salvation, that saith unto Zion, thy God reigneth. Thy watchmen shall lift up the voice, with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye, when the Lord shall bring again Zion. Now these watchmen, it's believed by some of the commentators to be angels, but others believe it to be ministers, prophets, just whether it be physical or spiritual, it's just the watchmen. Break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for the Lord hath comforted his people, he hath redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Depart ye, go ye out from thence, touch no unclean thing. Go ye out of the midst of her, be ye clean, that bear the vessels of the Lord. For ye shall not go out with haste, nor go by flight. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your reward. Now this would be a contrast whenever the Lord says, go out peacefully and such. This is a contrast to how they first came out of Egypt hundreds of years before with Moses. As at the going forth from Egypt, then they were thrust out. Now there would be no need of hurry. They would have the free permission of their sovereign to depart at their own time, and might proceed with calm deliberateness. Verse 13, behold, my servant shall deal prudently, he shall be exalted and extolled, and be very high. As many were astonished at thee. His visage was so marred, more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. The world was astonished to see, and one come to deliver it, no outward show of grandeur or magnificence, no special beauty or comeliness, but a presence unattractive to the mass of men at all times, and in the end so cruelly marred and disfigured as to retain scarcely any resemblance to the ordinary form and face of man. The prophet, as Delitzsch says, sits at the foot of the cross on Calvary and sees the Redeemer as he hung upon the accursed tree, after he had been buffeted and crowned with thorns and smitten and scourged and crucified, when his face was covered with bruises and with gore, and his frame and features distorted with agony. So shall he sprinkle many nations with his blood. The kings shall shut their mouths at him, for that which had not been told them shall they see, and that which they had not heard shall they consider. They were amazed at such an abject person claiming to be Messiah, yet it is he who shall justify and purify. Men were and will be dumb with the amazement of scorn at one marred more than the lowest of men. Yet the highest, even kings, shall be dumb with awe and veneration at what Christ has done. He has been a servant, and he's the lowest of servant, and then he's the highest of kings, and he's went into the afterworld and came back, went down to the captives, got there. He's covered every single base, and no other man could do it. He is completely unique, completely holy and set apart from all others and all creation. Glory to God. Glory to God. And this is the ruler of everything. And yet he's the greatest personality. He's not a ruler like we know of rulers. He's not fallible. He makes no mistakes. He's never made a mistake. It's really a bizarre thought. Never. And he's existed longer than anyone. We're so prone to mistakes and sin and disregard and mean and cruelty. We're so used to these things, yet he has never for one moment been such. It is just the most beautiful of things. It really, truly is. But that is it for today's study, my dear friends. God willing, we're going to be getting into Isaiah 53 here very, very soon. I'm going to let my lights charge, and then we'll try to do that one. It's a big one. Thank you all for joining me once again. God, a peace be with you. Amen.